Welcome.
Hey you guys, welcome to Astral Relaxation for our third episode.
We're back
today.
Nice to see
we're
you.
Excited, yes. I hope you guys liked the first two and you left your feedback. We want to interact with you guys.
Yes.
So make sure y'all do that.
Definitely interact with us.
Like the video, comment, subscribe,
yes.
share.
Yes.
To more people so we, reach out and support.
Thank you for all of your support. Anyone who's rocking with us so far, all of our subscribers so far, we love you. We appreciate you. And we are ready to talk today. We got a good one. We got a juicy one right here for us. I am watching. So, what is we talking about today? We gonna dive right into it. We don't got nothing else to do.
We've been talking about this shit for the past
We have been talking about it already, and we gonna recap a little bit on the topic. But the main topic for today is, drum roll please,
trauma bonds.
Trauma bonds. What's a trauma bond, Tamara?
Trauma bonds is when you are a person who has trauma and you try to connect with people based solely on that.
Yes.
With another person's trauma. So you try to that's how your relationship basically comes together and it's built on that foundation. It can create a lot of dysfunction. Yeah. And just a lot of chaos.
For instance, when you at work and you got that one friend and all y'all do is complain about work and you just be like, girl, let me tell you what the fuck happened. And that's all y'all ever do is talk about just work and how shitty it is and how you hate it here and you ready to go home. That's a trauma bond right there because all y'all bonded over was the negative. Mm-hmm. That's what y'all bonded over, the negative. Anything that is based solely on negative interaction is pretty much a trauma bond. Yeah, and my thing about that is what's crazy is there's a lot of friendships and family relationships that's the source of the friendship or the relationship. I had a friend who was trying to do that and I was just like, no, because anytime we would have a conversation, they would always overstep boundaries and try to get into my little world or my darkness and try to explore it so we can kind of unpack it.
Yeah, and I
be like, tell me so I can share mine.
Yeah, or be like, yours. Oh, there's an issue. There isn't. Try to pull some shit out of you, or to direct themselves from their trauma and the things they need to do for themselves. They'll try to put it on you and try to fix you, to ignore the shit they need to fix within themselves. Mm-hmm. That's usually what they do, and they'll cross boundaries, try to get you to open up about things that you probably already fixed or healed from, and it's just I'm not trying to go back down that road. I already dealt with that, so I don't see the point in us, revisiting things that I've already fixed through or went through, or even going through now. If I don't want to do that, I shouldn't have to, especially when I'm not the one who brought it up, or I literally don't have an issue and you're just trying to find one. Yeah. I hate that. And the thing about trauma bonds is they don't want, the people that you're bonded with doesn't want to see you start doing better. Because that's the life source of y'all's relationship. As soon as you start doing better, as soon as you be like, girl, I'm not even on that frequency no more, then they start hating. Mm-hmm. Then they be having to turn eye at you oh, well, what's got you in a good mood today? Or they be having slick stuff to say oh, well, just last week you was upset. Oh, well, they'll always have something to say because they don't want to see nobody past them. They're in this dark energy and this low frequency and you're there with them. But as soon as you want to leave, they no. We supposed to be here together, boo, so that they can feel better about where they're at because you're doing bad just like them. I'm doing bad, you doing bad, we staying bad down here together. They don't want you to get better. They don't want to see you improve. It's like a misery loves company thing. And people be like, oh, you have to have compassion for people who have going through things like that. And that's it's a thin line between you just dealing with your traumas and it's just you and the stuff you need to deal with. And then there's another instance where people will have that and then they'll drag everybody along with them, that hurt people thing. And it's I can have as much, so much compassion for that because comes an instance where the compassion needs to be you leaving them alone.
Yeah, that.
To protect your energy your own yourself. Like, why would you put yourself down a road where you probably need to be fixed now because you have trauma added onto you for continuing to deal with somebody when you know they weren't right to be around.
Right. Because not only are you carrying your own trauma, but you're carrying their trauma too. Yeah. Because they'll dump on you. That's another thing. They start dumping things. Like, most of the time, a trauma bond could be just being on the phone with a person and they want to be on the phone all day and all they want to talk about is how bad they day went or how shitty their life is or da-da-da-da. And we've all been there. We all have those people that we can call and just get it off of our chest. But when it becomes a constant thing and that's all y'all can get on the phone and talk about, then that's creating a trauma bond because you don't have nothing else to bond over. As soon as you start talking about something else, they bring the topic back to where y'all started, which is, oh, woe is me, ooh, boo-hoo, tell me what I should do, what can I do, have you ever been here before? And it's not good to stay in them places, them negative places, and that can be that can be so draining, like taking on people's drama and letting them dump on you. Letting people dump their stuff on you is a no. Have boundaries.
And the part of dumping is when people hold on too much to things and not express how they feel in the moment. Or, you know, not telling that person that they probably are feeling that way about to them. Like, there's an extent where obviously, you know, you and your friends have conversations. And then after that conversation, you probably over it, or you probably need a couple of more times. Like, say you go through a breakup, and your friend knows, okay, she's going to probably talk about this shit a couple of more times. But it is what it is because she'll eventually get over it. But it's those situations where that doesn't happen. And the person isn't doing anything to change the circumstance that they are in mentally. And it's just like, how many more times are we going to talk about this before
we start making actions to do something new?
Even if you bring that up, some people might get offended because they'll just be like,
oh.
And it's just like, you have to understand how mentally draining that is on the other person. But you to always be calling them about that. Yeah. And you don't get like how that makes them feel. They could have had a great ass day. Now they on the phone with you and they mood and their energy is shifted their whole energy.
Because I mean, it's on both people. First, you don't have boundaries to tell somebody like, hey, look, I don't have time to talk about that today. I'm in a good mood, you know, and it's okay to do that. It's definitely okay to be like, look, I don't have the energy for this. And that reminds me of a quote that I saw that was like, always ask somebody permission before you start dumping your stuff on them. Like, if you're going to call someone and vent, ask them if they're in the right mindset or the right mentality to take that on before you just be like, girl, I need a vent. Like, and then get on the phone and start talking and they already had a bad day. Like, what if they were already going through something and you called them and put all your stuff on them too? That's why boundaries are so important with your friendships, relationships, and anything in general, but especially your friendships, because we want to be there for our friends all the time and we want to answer every phone call and we want to talk and make sure that we're being good friends. But there's a thin line between that and just like completely having no boundaries and letting people just dump all their stuff on you and now you're worried about their stuff and your own stuff, you know?
Or even the instance of you being a nice person and you're always talking about, oh, you know, because I had friends like this who would do this all the time. Well, they will, obviously have no boundaries, or they would try to, people please. And it got to the point where they're mad at the fact that people aren't doing things in the way that they would do it. And it's like 9 times out of 10 it's because the person has boundaries. Of course, there could be shitty people who treat you terribly. And that's definitely out there, and it's true. But if that's literally every story that you have, you probably need to reflect and look in the mirror because...
Self-reflection.
Yeah, because every relationship you have, you don't have to do all that extra shit for people. You really don't.
You don't. It's a choice.
Stepping over barriers, be like, oh... And then it was an instance where I had a friend that would be like, oh, I did this for you, so I would think you would do this. And I'll be like, I probably don't have the means to do that right now. And two, like... I really wasn't thinking that,
It's not a comparison. Why are we comparing what you do to what I do? Even though you would like for somebody to do the same thing for you, you can't expect yourself from other people, first off. And then second off, just because you go all the way out of your way. Like, some people who don't have boundaries with themselves will just go out of the way to help other people too, and exert all of their energy, drain themselves of all their energy trying to help all of their friends, and they're not even giving that to themselves. So that's just as unhealthy as letting people dump on you, or not having no boundaries with communication, but over exerting. And I've definitely dealt with that before, of just overextending my energy and being like, damn, why does nobody give me that same energy back? That's probably because they would be tired if they did. Like, I'm tired because I gave so much of my energy and poured everything I got, and now I'm like, damn, y'all didn't give me shit.
Yeah, but when you're the person who's doing that, they're gonna always expect you to kind of do that, because like you said, you have no boundaries, so they're gonna be like, okay, let me ask her, because she always does this.
Exactly.
And then it's just like, you continue to do it, and it's just like, if you keep seeing a pattern, then you need to, one, create boundaries, or if it gets too bad, you need to exclude yourself from people's lives, because a lot of times we stay too long when we deserve better.
Yeah, facts. But a lot of people don't know what they deserve, and that's true, and that's totally fine. But once you learn it, you got to do something about it. You can't just keep accepting the same behavior from your friends. You can't keep answering every single phone call, going out to pick people up at midnight, 2 in the morning, letting people call your phone. Like, having boundaries is good for just your own self-health, you know, like, and especially in friendships, because you don't want to be taken advantage of, but you also want to have a healthy friendship, you know, if you're going to have one. We should also touch on the topic of just like projection. And, well, let me ask you this. What is one time that you didn't have boundaries and you regretted it?
The first time I started dating this person, and this is why, you know, when you do it the first probably 2 times, give you leeway, because, you know, especially if you're new to it.
It takes time to learn anything, really.
Yeah, so I remember when I first started dating this guy, I was the type of person, if he needed anything, and this was the biggest mistake I did, if he needed anything, I was like, I took care of it, like, because I had it. And then there were even times where I didn't have it, and I overextended myself, and this is another way that I learned that, like, having boundaries and saying no, and that it's okay to say no, that it shouldn't change the relationship, and if it does, then that person just is not for you.
They're not genuine.
And they can't
were just there to use that boundary. Most likely.
Yeah, and come to find out, he was. So, yes. And come to find out, he definitely did use my ass. But that's because I had no boundaries, and he ended up, you know, not really respecting me because I never said no.
And it sucks, but like at the same time, you do have to be mad at yourself a little bit, because it's like, damn, why didn't I see? But also, they're fucked up for using you in that way. But also, if you're offering it, who's gonna say no to free food? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So who's gonna say no?
Yeah, and that's when I went through my one of my many spiritual awakenings, and I did some more shadow work. That's when I really started to, like, really go deep with the shadow work. And, you know, I took accountability, but I also held him responsible and was like, you know, that's not the friendship I need. So I cut him off. And then I was going through this thing where I was trying to figure out where that stemmed from. Like, why am I trying to make, you know, please this person, and never say no and stuff like that, and be there at every call that they, you know, like anything that they needed. And whenever I said no,
where did you think that came from? Or did you discover, like, where the root of that might have
when I was in college, I had a situation where, what's crazy is I want to say that, but then it's just like, I really don't know. I think it was just my first relationship, and I just didn't know what to do or how to handle it.
It's kind of like, people, in your first relationship, tell me you didn't want to please that person and, like, make sure you're being a good partner.
That's basically where it's
doing the best that you can.
Because I learned from that situation. After that, I didn't do it anymore. Like, I learned my lesson. I was like, yep, no. Because it wasn't a constant thing, so I don't necessarily think that stemmed from childhood. But there were things where I was kind of codependent.
Yeah.
If I didn't talk to that person after a certain period, you know, if he hit me up within a day or something, my mood significantly changed. You know, so I went through those things where I was like, where did that stem from? And Basically, it was little childhood things, but it wasn't nothing super severe. But even small things can kind of like
turn
mess
into
you
big
up.
Things.
Or young adult. That's when my trauma really started, when I was young adult. And I feel like that came from that, because I had a lot of situations with guy friends or just dudes I was dealing with where if I said no or if I had boundaries, they would literally get upset.
Yeah. And then you want to,
or they would still try you, like,
yeah.
And it was just like, I went through a little bit of trauma at that time, and I felt like, since it was with God, men, and that's where that definitely stemmed from. Because it was like, damn, if I say no, they're gonna get this. I'm gonna get this reaction from them, or they're gonna like flip on me or something. Because that's what happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that definitely is what it stemmed from. So I had to heal from that. Because at first, I just let it go. Because I was just like, I didn't think it was that deep at that moment. Yeah. But it actually was.
And we've all been there. We've all been there for sure. A lot of people have dealt with that. It's not something that is just you. Don't ever think that you're the only one who deals with that. Everybody deals with learning boundaries over time. It's something that you just have to practice. Like, it is for sure. I would say, let me think of a time. I would say the same thing. It would probably be like my first relationship too. I didn't have no boundaries at all. My first relationship, like, what were boundaries? They do not exist. Right. I would do anything. I would get on the bus. I would go across town. I would drive across the country if he asked me to. You know what I'm saying? It was that type of thing where it's like you want to be a good girlfriend and you want to do everything that you see on TV or be the best relationship goals and whatever. And I feel like I also struggle with that with friends as well. Like, my friendships, I always, like, I always wanted to make people happy around me. It was definitely, like, being a people pleaser a lot when I was younger. I know a lot of that comes from your childhood. I can't pinpoint a moment that it might have come from, but I know that I spent a lot of time trying to please my parents or impress them or make them happy. Because you feel like it's a reward when you get certain things from them. Like, oh, I'm so proud of you, or I love you, comes from, like, certain actions that you do. And you be feeling like it's a transactional type of thing. So I would do things for my friends and then expect, like, oh, my God, I love you in return. Or, like, you're my bestie in return. And sometimes I would realize that those people were not really my friends. They were just taking whatever I was given. And they were just like, yeah, but we still don't really fuck with you like that. Like, no matter how much I did, I was still getting left out of the party. Nobody was calling me to come. And I'm like, dang, I wasn't invited to the birthday party because they just didn't like me like that. You know what I'm saying? But I was overexerting myself to be like, hey, girls, like, what's up? You know? And that looks bad on either way. You know, either way, you can look at it and be like, damn, they were kind of fucked up for not inviting you. But also, you was kind of doing a lot, girl. Like, you was doing a lot, trying to do too much and please them and try to fit into the crowd and impress your friends.
You're like, damn, I was really
like, why was I doing all that? Like, why was I even doing all that for real? Because I would do a lot. I would get my friends the best gifts and, like, go out of my way and be like, I want to do something special for him or her. But a lot of times that's also just to feed your own ego too. Like, you know, sometimes you be getting people nice stuff just so you can be like, yeah, I'm a good friend. Yeah, I know. I'm the best. Like, I'm the bestest friend. I got you this. I got you that. Or I did this or did that. So, you know, I would say I've dealt with that a lot. Like, boundaries and just learning how to have boundaries. Like, for instance, I had a friend who every time she would laugh, she would push me. She would laugh. She would be like, ah, girl, push me. And it used to hurt. Like, she used to push me hard. And I remember going home to my mom and being like, Mom, this girl be pushing me all the time. I know she don't mean to. Like, I don't think she's doing it on purpose, but, like, she really be pushing me. Like, and it be hurting me, but I just be brushing it off. And she would, like, really, like, I'm not talking about just a little girl, like, hush. No, she would be, like, really pushing. I'm small, so, like, she would be pushing me hard and shit. And I'd be like, okay. I mean, it was not that funny. And why are you pushing me out of all people? Like, she would always push me. And I think this was the first time I learned boundaries because I went home to my mom and I told her, and she said, no. When you go to school tomorrow, tell that girl not to put her hands on you no more. Tell her you don't like it. That's boundaries right there. That was the start of that for me. And I remember I went to school and I looked her dead in her face and I said, don't push me no more. I don't like it when you be laughing and you be hitting me and pushing me. That is not cool. Like, I don't like that at all. And guess what? She stopped doing it. And we're still friends to this day.
Standing up for yourself.
That's just something that you have to do, having boundaries.
What's crazy is people always call people mean or stuff like that, but people respect people who have, standards and boundaries for themselves. If they don't want you doing something, they're going to tell you.
Exactly.
And you have nothing to do but respect that. And if you don't, then...
Exactly.
Move over there.
Exactly.
And that's just how it goes. But that literally does get people, that's how it comes when it comes to respect. Because if you allow people to walk all over you, of course they're not going to respect you.
Exactly.
Because they're like, oh, this person don't care. They let me do anything.
And without those boundaries, that's how trauma bonds really are created. Because really, both of y'all are the victims in a trauma bond situation. You're a victim because you're complaining. It's usually both parties. It's not really just one person on the phone like blah, 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 blah. Both of y'all be in it. Like, I'm going to call her every time I get mad. And she going to call you every time she get mad. And y'all going to be on the phone for hours and hours.
Until you tell that person you ain't cool with that.
Exactly. And yeah, y'all are both a part of that. I also like to say that I think trauma bonds are really like karmic relationships. Like, they're very similar to a karmic relationship because they're meant to teach you something. Like, having a trauma bond with someone is going to teach you something. It is pretty karmic if you think about it, because y'all both have to learn something in order to move past the trauma bond, in order to get to the next level, or you guys can stay there in that same bondage for years and years. Like, there's people I know to this day who, if I allowed them to, would call my phone and have a lot to dump on me.
And that relationship just cycles.
Right.
Because say, like, you're cool with a person and y'all have it out, and then y'all get back to the friendship, then y'all keep having it. Like, it creates dysfunction because it's like, okay, sure, even if you are saying something, but you're not doing anything about it. Like, if the person crosses a boundary again, all you do is fuss at them. You don't really change the dynamic of the situation because you're still there. Mm-hmm. So it's like they really don't see the point in changing.
Picking up the phone.
Yeah, when you're doing that, it doesn't give them a chance, because sometimes, leaving people completely alone, that's how they learn their lesson, where everybody leaves. That's when sometimes people have to have nobody there.
You have to. That's like...
So they could be like, damn, well, what is it? It can't be everybody.
Yeah, like, it can't be.
What's making everybody leave my life?
Well, that's what you would hope, is that, like, when you remove yourself from the situation, that they learn something. Unfortunately, some people don't. But a lot of people do. They'll take that time as a reflection to be like, damn, well, what did I do to drive that person away? Or what was it that caused the rift in our relationship to where we can't... You know what I'm saying? I would say if you're in a trauma bond or you're hanging out with somebody and you notice that it could be a trauma bond, try talking to them about other things. See if they really respond to that. Because majority of the time, a trauma bond, they only want to talk about the trauma. Yeah. They only want to talk about... You want to talk about getting a new job. If you want to talk about starting a new company or starting a new business or practicing healthier things in your life, a lot of times they won't really be fucking with it. They'll just be like, oh, okay, yeah, but they won't really be supportive of it because they don't want to see you. Like I said, they don't want to see you do better than them. They don't want to see you come out of that dark cloud energy at all. So test that out. If you start talking to your friends about positive things like, oh, I'm going to start working out this week, or I'm going to start taking sea moss, or anything that's going to help you be in a better mood or change your lifestyle, and they don't really fuck with it, they're not supporting it, then that's probably not the relationship that you need to be with in. You know what I'm saying? Or that friendship is not of value to you.
Or they changing the conversation where you're talking about it, you're all excited, and then they just be like, oh, okay.
Well, I'm
did you think about it? And you be like, damn, like...
Right. And they move on to something else, or they start talking about themselves again, because they like to talk about themselves a lot, too. That's for sure. That is for sure.
No, baby. Yes. And there's those people who because I want to get into projection, like what creates that. And a lot of times people don't understand, like, a lot of things they do, they put on other people, and they'll try to find flaws in other people based off of how they feeling. Like, if they're feeling so bad about themselves, or you're making them secretly feel away and they're just not saying it, they'll try to down talk you. Oh, you be doing this, you're like this, and this is what's wrong with you. And then I remember I dated a person who was like that, where he was very outgoing. He was very friendly, like to the point where he had no boundaries. Would invite people to his home when they first meet him, and I was just like, that's not safe. And then it's like, you're always in some shit, so obviously it hasn't been working.
Right.
Because it's like, well, like, I understand you want friends, but you don't get genuine friendship out of trying to be friend every single body. Like, that's not true. Especially the first day you meet them.
Right.
Like, you have to build up that repertoire. So I'm kind of more observant. And I'm friendly. Like, I'll say hi and have a conversation, but if I don't know you like that, I don't feel the need to be like, put all my business out there and shit like that. For you to know, like, I feel like I have clear boundaries. And not only that, but what's the word for it?
Get your nails out of me.
I have clear boundaries, and I don't want to. I don't want to say I don't attach myself to a situation like that.
Yeah.
Because I don't see the point, especially when I don't know you like that. So he looked at that as bad, because he's like, you're not as open as me. You're not this, and you're like the problem, because you know, for you to say you're spiritual, you're not. And I'm like, I don't have to be exactly like how you are to be a certain thing. Like, I'm my own person.
Right.
And then it's just like, you have all this shit that you need to deal with. Why are you looking at me and my shit, or are you putting your shit onto me? Like, because
they feel like they're alone, and they want somebody to relate to that. You know what I'm saying? And if you don't do the same thing, then they looking at like, damn, well, I must be crazy because this person don't feel the same way, or they don't have the same issue, or they don't have the same problem.
Yeah, it's like, because I disagree with you, we're enemies now?
Right.
That shit don't make no sense, and it's stupid, especially when you claim to be open-minded. You can't be open-minded and be mad at other people's opinions or the way they live.
Or be mad at them because they're not sharing as much as you sharing. Some people overshare and then be mad because you didn't share nothing about you, or they start asking you, what about you, girl? And you be like, no, I think I'm not gonna share. Now we not cool. Now we not friends because I didn't want to share my personal business. Or you like, think that's my boundary. That's my boundary.
Get something out of you, and you're just like,
that's my boundary. You decided to just share freely. I never even asked. Look, and you opened up and said what you had to say. But now you want me to do the same way just because you did. And some people do feel comfortable. Like, once you share your stuff, if I feel comfortable, I might share too. But if I don't feel comfortable in that situation to share with you, and you're trying to force me to talk about it, I'ma just keep it to myself because they just want something to relate to.
Like, some people are not ready for that. Yeah. Like, if you want to do it, cool, but that doesn't mean I have to automatically do it because you did it. I'm not ready to share all those parts of me with you, and that shouldn't be an offense.
Right.
I'm not ready for that.
You should be able to do it on whatever time is comfortable for you.
And it's just like, I can share. Obviously, when we're friends, we can share certain things, but I'm not gonna sit up here and force a friend to be telling me all their shit that they probably haven't even dealt with or got to yet, and it could possibly trigger them.
Yeah,
like really, really bad.
Especially when you don't know a person.
And you're not a therapist, so it's like, why are you over here trying to play therapist?
You're not a therapist.
Like, you can fix some shit. Like, they try to be therapists when they need one.
The thing is, they just want to hear your stuff, but most of the time they don't have no advice to give.
Exactly. Or they try to give you advice, you know, through control. Because a lot of times when people go through a lot of trauma, they'll use certain situations or put themselves in situations where they can control it, because that's literally all, you know, that's all that they have. Like, to have some hand in something, or I can make this way in the way that I want to, because now I have the free will to do that, and it makes me feel good because it's like, okay. Like, for instance, like when killers, when they're younger and they experience domestic abuse or stuff or whatever, and a lot of the times the only way they found like a means of control was by killing animals.
Yep.
Like
Norman Bates.
Yeah, so it's
he didn't kill animals.
But yes, it's like I'm not saying, you know, they're killing, but I'm just saying, like, people try to find ways to control through other people to deal with their shit, or to hide from their shit. Like, cult leaders do that shit all the time. That's how they find a false sense of power, by trying to reign over people. It's kind of the same thing when it comes to people who have a lot of trauma, haven't dealt with it.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, they try to gain control over other people, and that shit is not cool at all. Right. And that's why you need to really deal with your shit.
Deal with like, your
nobody's
shit.
Not.
That's the main point.
Nobody's being asked to you, or if people are telling you things, you should probably listen.
Yeah.
Especially if multiple
it don't hurt to listen. Take
you.
what resonates and let the rest go. Really, that's all you have to do.
I understand a lot of people when they're in their shit, they can't see it. But like I said, if you have a whole bunch of people leaving your life or they stop fucking with you,
yeah. Not to say that. Sorry, y'all. I had to get my other camera because the camera tried to die on me. But yeah, not saying that neither one of us have trauma or that it's not okay to have trauma or shaming anyone who does have trauma, but dwelling in your trauma is the biggest issue. Dwelling there and finding people who are dwelling in that energy and not trying to come out of it is the problem. You want to fix it. If you have trauma and you notice that about yourself, or the people around you and y'all all going through it, if your whole group is going through it, then y'all are probably bonded by that trauma. You guys are probably bonded by those troubles that you have been experiencing. Say hi.
And you can't really grow when you're stuck in certain spaces.
Put yourself around people who are doing better than you. That's really what it is. I'm not saying that they're doing better than you, but get around people who encourage you to be happy. Get around people who encourage you to do better and have those type of bonds. What about success bonds and not trauma bonds? We don't want to be bonded by our trauma forever. Like, that's not healthy. I don't know why I keep moving. But it's not healthy. Like, we want to make sure that the relationships that we have are benefiting us in our life and adding something to our life and not just bringing us down and keeping us down. Because a lot of people, especially, like, you find that in, like, hometown relationships, like your old friends or your people from your hometown or where you come from, a lot of times those people don't like to see you start doing better. They don't like to see you moving out of your city or doing anything new because they be stuck in whatever energy that they're in. And when you get out of that, it looks to them like you're trying to do better than them or you're trying to be better. And it's really not the case that way, but you have to want better for yourself and to be around people who want better for you as well. Like, if your friends don't clap for you, that's probably not the friend. And that's probably a trauma bond because what else would they be there for other than to watch you be bad or do bad? You know what I'm saying? And I don't want no people like that around me.
Absolutely.
I don't want nobody around me who praying on my downfall or want me to stay down
or
because they down.
Cycle.
Or also people who are just staying in their cycle. You giving them advice and telling them, girl, this is what we should do. We should try doing something new. And you start doing it. Say y'all have a conversation and you're like, we're going to start doing this. We're going to start going to the gym and doing better. And you get on the road and start doing it. And then they not doing it, and they still calling you and complaining about the same stuff. Mm-hmm. Girl, what else you want me to tell you? Apply what we talked about or move on, because we can't sit here and just cry about it forever.
About the same shit.
We can't do this forever. I'm sorry. This is not going to work. It ain't going to work. So
exactly.
Trauma bonds are just, like I said, karmic, because eventually you'll learn the lesson. Eventually you'll get tired of it, and then you'll move on to something healthier or something better for you. Like, that's how trauma bonds work. They can't last forever unless you stay in that low vibration for the rest of your life. And let's hope you're not doing that. I would pray that you would not do that.
Because I know people who will cut people off, like I said, and then befriend them again because they said some cute little words. And it's just like...
Right.
Why? Like, I can't do that. I don't like stress.
Yeah, that.
I do not like stress.
Yeah, if your friends stress you out and you just be dreading picking up the phone, oh my God. I just know this bitch finna get on the phone and complain. Like, I don't even want to talk about it. I don't want to do this. Have that boundary and be like, girl, not today. Or just don't pick up your phone. Yeah. You do not have to answer and don't feel guilty.
Even if
they see you online after and they be like, girl, I called you. And what about it? You don't have to answer every time somebody calls. It's about your self-care and what you can handle. And if you can't handle having them type of conversations, then don't.
I had a friend who did that where they got mad because they decided, and what was crazy, I couldn't even hear them over the phone. So the last thing, because they were going under a tunnel, the last thing I said was, I'll talk to you later. That didn't mean I was going to talk to you in a couple of hours after I leave my shit. Because I was working overnight and I was super tired. So he decided he wanted to stay up till I was done because he thought I was going to call him. And I was like, why the fuck would you do that when you got to work in the morning?
Right.
and then get mad at me because you did that. I was like, I never asked you to stay up. I didn't say I was going to call you back. I said I will call you later. And then I'm super exhausted. You not respecting it. I was like, I'll call you tomorrow because I'm tired, I'm exhausted, and I don't have time, argue about this shit. And I sent him some video because, I'm at work. I just got off, so I'm like, decompressing. I was on social media, and he really blew up at me because of that. And I was just like, really starting to try to call me over and over again. And I was just like, at that point, I was like, yeah, I'm not ever talking to you because you don't respect. And I told him that before. I was like,
you have to respect.
I set a boundary, and then I was like, you do that shit again, I'm not gonna talk to you. Like, I'm completely giving away, because it was just a lot of things in the relationship that was just like projection.
Yeah.
When I would get on the phone, I did something, and I just be sitting over here like.
It ain't never just a peaceful conversation.
I don't like
it ain't never just
peaceful.
Walk
on eggshells around.
Right. You gotta watch what you say, or you gotta make sure you're doing what they want you to do. That is very controlling when they be like, "Oh, I thought you were gonna call me back later. You said after work," and like checking on what you doing and who you with.
I would have did it, and it's just like hang up.
Yeah. Definitely.
I ain't doing this.
So watch out for that. Like, moral of the story is you should be working on your trauma, not soaking in that energy with other people. Work on it.
And it's the difference between being too nice and having compassion. Like, you can have compassion for people, ask for your space, or do things gently, or give them kind words through their trauma, even if it's a lot, instead of just being like, oh, you gotta change. Just be like, oh, I understand, I've been through the same thing, but, we have to get ourselves out of the darkness. Small things like that where it's uplifting at the same time.
Right, you can hear what they have to say.
Yeah, but
you can talk to your people who are going through things. If you're going through things, you can talk to them. But once it becomes a constant thing, like every time you talk to this person, you notice that they always complaining. You notice that they're always having the same problems. They always doing it. That means they're not doing nothing to better the situation, and they're gonna be there for a long time. No matter how much advice you try to give them, most of them are not gonna listen to you anyway. Like, if they're not listening and they're not taking the advice to do better, then they don't want better for themselves because they can't. There's no way you could want better and not be doing it.
That alone is gonna keep the relationship stagnant.
Exactly.
Because that person
it's not beneficial to you at all.
And then you continuing to coddle them, it's definitely not gonna make it better.
And that's probably why they call you, just so they can have somebody to be like, oh, poor baby, I'm so sorry.
Instead of being, because sometimes you do need somebody that's gonna be hard on you.
Right.
You do sometimes.
Girl, don't call me asking me to be you, because look, everybody know, ask anybody I talk to, I'll be like, girl, get up, get up.
Especially after a certain period of time.
Right, after about 2 conversations, I'll be like, all right now, don't say it no more.
I'll catch you in your thing where I'm like, because I remember I would have guy friends who would do this or just, people in general. We can talk about that next time.
Right.
But I'm just saying, like people will call you about, things, or they'll put it on other people, like I said, project, and then you kind of have to reel them in and be like, well, baby, like, what's causing this, like, what's causing that rap? Like, it's not always everybody else.
It's not. Especially
when it's a cycle, you got to look at yourself now. Like, why the fuck does everybody keep leaving? Why can't a relationship last? That's, so on and so forth. And sometimes you gotta ask you those questions. Like, for sure. And that's a step.
Yeah.
Really taking accountability for your part in it. Because you blaming other people, that's not gonna have you change anything. You're just gonna stay in that same role. And nothing is gonna change. Not even the type of people you complaining about not having a certain type of person in your life is not going to make that person come. You have to literally add changes to your life. Create boundaries.
Be that person.
Be that person, first off. That's the biggest one.
Be that person.
Be that person.
For yourself.
For yourself. Then create boundaries. Don't consider everybody that you just meet your damn friend. Being naive. And
be selfish with your time.
Yeah, and be
selfish
honest
with your time. Don't always be available for people to dump their things on you. Don't always be available for people to vent and complain. It might be like, oh, they're my family, I want to answer, I want to be there for them, but also you can't do anything for them that they cannot do for themselves at all. So have that same love for yourself and be like, look, I'm not going to do this to myself by making myself have this conversation that I really don't want to have. So just be cautious of the relationships that you have. Like, what is the word? Review, like, the people who are in your life and really take the time to notice if they're beneficial to you, if they're helping your life, or if it's a trauma bond, or if it's something that's toxic, you know. Really be careful of the friendships and the energies, and realize that some people aren't friends at all. They really are just people who are there. Yeah. Some people are not actually your friends. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and be honest with yourself and the person. If you really don't want to do something, say that. Or if you really not feeling something, don't just say it, but show in your actions. Like, if the person does it again, you have to show some form of action. Like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
You can't just continue to complain about the shit they're doing and you're still there after you already told them, if you do this again, I'm done, or I really don't like that.
Yeah.
Like, you have to display some form of action. Even if it is telling them again and you not doing that action again, that could be step number 2. Exactly. And then step number 3, if they try it again, you just completely
stop answering their phone calls. Stop talking to them completely. They'll have to sit with it themselves and really deal with it. And in the meantime, you could be working on your trauma and fixing it yourself. So we want y'all to have the best relationships as possible. And make sure that you're trying your best.
And really self-reflect
to avoid.
And look at yourself and take time with yourself. Because that's what creates those attitudes where you can self-reflect and, you know, be quiet and really question, like, go there with yourself and be like, okay, how am I feeling? Did I do this right? What are the things I could have did better? Like, really going there with yourself. You do that by being by yourself and not having to always have people around you. Like, being in a quiet space and being okay with that.
Yeah,
definitely. A lot of people are not okay with being alone.
Yeah, that's
and you should definitely learn how to do that.
Yeah, and some people would rather bond with their trauma than to be alone with it. Yeah. They'll bond with somebody else who has the same trauma so that they can avoid fixing whatever trauma that they have.
Yeah, learn how to make your own decisions. You don't always have to ask people what you need to do.
Yeah.
Like, trust yourself.
Yeah.
To make those decisions. Because a lot of times people get in those relationships where they'll be in them for years and now they got trust issues because they always depending on other people's feedback or, they don't trust themselves.
Yeah.
So it's just like, you have to really, like, take time to get to know to discover, not get to know, but discover who you are. And really spend time with yourself and not be afraid to do shadow work. Mm-hmm. Ask yourself those questions. Get familiar with your attitude, who you are, your spirit science. You know, just get in touch with you. Like, really get going there. So that's like the biggest pullout, I would say, from this. Because this could be, this is towards everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Boundaries, trauma bonds, friendships with no boundaries. What else did we touch on? We touched on projecting, and I think that was everything. Like, your friendships, our main focus was that. So I hope you guys really took something from this podcast that we decided to talk about today. And we're going to be back with some more juicy topics for you next week. Who is our artist of the day? We didn't think of an artist. Did we get one?
Oh, I'll say it.
Yeah. We got QueenLeft in the building. QueenLeft is the artist of the week, okay? Her music is going to be down in the description below. Yes. All of her links are going to be listed down below. So check her out. Check out all her music. And that is our artist of the week, okay? Period. So go ahead and check her out, follow her, and do all that you got to do. Like I said down in the description, share y'all stories down below about when did you not have no boundaries? Talk about your trauma bonds down below. We want to hear your stories.
What's the lesson?
If you have any questions for us. Well, thank you guys for chilling with us and talking with us today. Thank you for coming to Astral Relaxation. Yes. We love talking with y'all, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Yes,
thank you.
We were really fun.
Right, the camera trying to die on us, and I don't know.